Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for a Dead or Alive League update. This is at the conclusion of round 17 of play. We begin with the Premier League, and we begin with the Atlantic Division, the United States versus Mexico. The United States coming in 13-0. They're still the unbeaten team, the only unbeaten team throughout the three leagues in Dead or Alive. And they would roll over the Mexicans here 5-3. In an impressive fight. So the U.S., not much to say here. The U.S. would open with a sweep. Mexico would answer back actually with two straight. 5-3 and 5-4. A very good, well-fought Game 3 victory. Game 4 would go to the United States before another sweep by the U.S. and Game 5 put them 3-2 up. Mexico leveled in Game 6 with a 5-1 victory. Game 7 went the United States' way 5-3 before they closed out with a third sweep in the series of 5-3. So that puts the United States at 14-0. Mexico dropped to 3-9 off the back of that, and the U.S. continued their roll over their league here, their Atlantic Division. Mexico in threat now at 3-10 of dropping back into a relegation spot, coming into the match in 18th, but taking another loss to division rivals U.S. Second matchup on the day was the Netherlands on the round was the Netherlands and Denmark. The Netherlands came into this match 6-7, Denmark at 6-6. So it was a tightly contested mid-table match here in the division. Netherlands coming in, that 6-7 record was good enough for third place in their division. Meanwhile, Denmark at 6-6, that was good enough for just second in their division. And this one would go the way of the Danes. The Danes would open up with a big 5 rounds to 4 victory before a 5 rounds to 3 victory gave them the 2-0 advantage early. Netherlands would get one back 5-3 in Game 3, but the Danes again would shut the door in Game 4 5-1. That gave them the 3-1 lead. They would find a way to close it out with 2 straight 5-2 victories in Game 5 and Game 6. That gave Denmark the 5-1 series victory. They are going to improve to 7-6. The Dutch fall to 6-8 off the back of that. Third matchup in the round was between Pacific Division leaders Australia, who came in at 9-4 with a good +8 fight difference. Fourth best team in the league. They faced a struggling, inconsistent 6-6 Japan, who were +6 fight difference, third in the division, 8th overall. And the Japanese would pull the win at home over the division leaders by a score of 5-3. Japan opened up the series with 2 victories, 5-1, 5-3 to go to 2-0 ahead, but Australia would level the series back after 4 fights, 5-2, 5-1. Game 5 would go the way of the Japanese, 5-2, before answer again for the Japanese in Game 6 at 5-1. Australia would fight one back 5-1 themselves in Game 7, but Japan would shut the door in Game 8 by a score of 5-3. That's also how the series would go. The Japanese improved to 7-6. It's a big win for them. Australia dropped to 9-5 off the back of that. That led into our second Atlantic Division matchup on the round, Canada versus the United Kingdom. Canada coming in at 8-4, clearly the second best team in this division, and they would be battling the United Kingdom, who are 3-11 and came into the matchup in the relegation zone in 20th spot. But the United Kingdom would pull a huge upset win over the Canadians in this one by a score of 5-1. The United Kingdom would open up the bout with 5-2 victory in Game 1 and a 5-2 victory in Game 2 before a 5-3 victory in Game 3 saw them run out to the early 3-0 series lead. Canada would sweep back in Game 4 to make the series 3-1, but the United Kingdom would find a very good win in Game 5, 5-3, before shutting the door with an impressive sweep in Game 6, 5-0. That gave the series 5-1, or 5 rounds to none in that last fight. That gave the series 5-1 for the United Kingdom. The UK improves to 4-11. They also improved their -16 fight difference to just -12 now. Meanwhile, Canada drops to 8-4. Their fight difference drops to just +9. That leads us into the Atlantic Division standings. At the end of round 17 of play, the United States still top 14-0 with 14 points and a +33 fight difference. Very well from them. They are running away with the division now. They are 6 points ahead of the Canadians, who are 8-5 off the back of their loss to the UK. +9 fight difference for the Canadians. Ireland is in third at 5-8 with just 5 points, -5 fight difference for the Irish. The UK have jumped up 1 spot to 4th and back into the playoff spot at 4-11. Their fight difference is at -12. Mexico at 3-10. They reclaim the bottom spot in this division. Fight difference at just a -25. Interesting thing to note here, the UK 51 fights won, which is actually second best. It's on level with the Canadians, who are 8-5, but the 63 fights lost is the worst in the division. That leads us to the Mediterranean division, Switzerland versus Portugal. This one was an absolute barn burner. The Swiss at 6-6 come in with a -4 fight difference. Third in the division, they are 10th overall, straight in the mid-table. They face the division leaders in Portugal, who are 11-3. And this one would still go the way of the Portuguese, but they were made to work for it. 2 5-2 5-2 victories in Game 1 and Game 2 would see the Portuguese jump out to the 2-0 series lead before Switzerland pegged them back with 2 straight 5-3 victories in Games 3 and Game 4. With the series level, Portugal would win 5-1 in Game 5 before it was traded back in the same fashion in Game 6 for the Swiss, leveling the series at 3-all. The Portuguese would then win Game 7 5-2 before the Swiss traded that back again by the same scoreline in Game 8. Going into the 9th and final deciding game, it was to be the Portuguese with a 5-1 victory to close out the win. They win 5-4. Portugal improves to 12-3. The Swiss will drop to 6-6. This led to the second matchup in the European division on round 17, and that is Belgium versus Norway. Belgium come in at 10-2. They were the clear division leaders, going up against the 4th place team Norway in their division at 6-8 with just a -3 fight difference. And the Belgians would still take this one to maintain division lead. 5-4. Belgium ran out to the early lead, 5-3 with or 5 rounds to 3 in Game 1, before Norway answered back 5 rounds to 1 in Game 2 to level the series quickly at 1-all. Belgium would again get the lead after Game 3 with a 5-2 victory, and Norway would again answer back to level the series at 5-3 at the end of Game 4. Game 5 again saw the Belgians take the lead in the series with a 5-3 victory this time, but Game 6 they would find a way to follow it up 5 rounds to 1. This put them on the cusp of winning at 4 fights to 2 before the Norwegians swept 2 straight matches back in Game 7 and Game 8 to level the series at 4-all between a very pivotal Game 9, which went all 9 fights. Lei Fang beating the Brad Long there in Game 9 and giving Belgium to 5 rounds to 4 victory, or the 5 fights to 4 victory. Belgium improves to 11-2. Norway dropped to 6-9, but with just a -4 fight difference. So certainly room for improvement for the Norwegians, but not to get their hopes dashed just yet. Plenty of season left. And we now transition into the European division standings. Belgium at the top, like we said, they are 11-2 now. They are 4 points ahead of the Danes in second, who are 7-6 with a +2 fight difference. Netherlands are in third at 6-8 with +1 fight difference. Norway is in fourth at 6-9, beg your pardon, with just a -4 fight difference as well. They maintain the last playoff spot in this division. They are a game ahead of the Finns, who have 2 games in hand over them at the bottom of this division at 4-9, but with a much needing of improvement, -18 fight difference. The Finns there with 41 fights won is the second least in the division. Conversely, the Norwegians with 56 fights won is actually the second highest in the division, but their 60 fights dropped is going to need improvement if they are going to attempt to climb the standings here, and at least keep distance between them and the Finns in 5th. This transition us back into the Mediterranean division. We had Spain versus Austria, and this one was a completely one-sided affair. The 5-8 Spanish going against a pesky 7-5 Austrian side who had managed to fight their way into second place in the division. And this one was one-way traffic all the way. A complete sweep, 5-0. Very rare that we've seen this in the league this season. But nonetheless, 5-0. Austria winning 5-1 in Game 1, 5-2 in Game 3, 5-2 in Games 2, 3, and 4, I should say. All going the way of 5-2 victories before Lei Fang beating Rig in Game 5 to give the Austrians the 5-0 victory. So Austria improves to 8 and 5. Spain will drop to 5 and 9 off the back of that. They also drop to a minus 19 fight difference, which is going to need a lot of work on for the Spanish to get back into this division. They are 4th in the division coming into the fight at 5 and 8, but certainly this is not going to help their chances of maintaining that final playoff spot in the division. Austria putting themselves in good position to maybe try and contest this division lead now at 7 and 5, although the Portuguese are well far ahead. And let's go to those Mediterranean division standings. Portugal at the top, 12 and 3. They maintain the 4-point difference between them and the Austrians, but the Austrians are up to 8 and 5 now. They have a plus 13 fight difference to boat as well. They also have the least amount of fights conceded, and 43 in this division. Switzerland are in third, 6 and 7. They have 13 games played as well. The minus 5 fight difference is going to need a little bit of an improvement for a team that's on the border of being 500. You'd want that a little bit better, but still not in a bad position there so far. Spain, with the loss, drops to 5 and 9. They are 2 games back of the Swiss, and the Swiss have a game in hand as well. So, but remember, it is based off wins. Just total wins, secondary tiebreaker is going to be the fight difference. So Spain still with a chance here in this division at 5 and 9. Plenty of season left to play, of course. France at the bottom there at 3 and 10. They are really struggling. They're in need of a lot of improvement. Minus 13 fight difference is rather low when you consider they're 7 games below 500, but they do need to start finding a way to pick up wins, and hopefully their games in hand will be the way to do so. That brings us to the final match in the Premier League, Singapore versus South Korea. Singapore 3 and 9 coming into this fight. They're looking to improve their fortunes, but struggling heavily with that minus 23 fight difference. They are the worst team in their division. They are 17th out of the 20 overall. They face the South Korean side. That has slipped a little bit in these standings. They were up there around 500. They were even contesting for the division lead at the end of stage 1 of this competition, but now as we get closer to the end of stage 2, they seem to have slipped back to towards the bottom of the division. They have an even fight difference for being 2 games below 500, and it's good enough for 4th in the division, 12th overall. But needing a win, they picked up a much-needed win here in this round, beating Singapore 5 fights to 3. The Koreans actually opened up with a sweep in Game 1 before Singapore would answer back 5 rounds to 3 in Game 2. Game 3 saw the Koreans run out a 5-2 victory before doing the same in Game 4 to go up 3-1 in the series, but Singapore would sweep them back in Game 5 to draw within 1. The Koreans would then win an 8-round fight in Game 6 to draw within 1 of winning the series. Singapore would get one back in Game 7, 5-2, being down just 3 fights to 4 before the Koreans would shut the door with an 8-round victory in Game 8. That's enough to give the Koreans the win. They improved to 7 and 8. Singapore will drop to 3 and 10. That fight difference down to now minus 25. The Koreans 1 game off from being 500 again, and with a plus 2 fight difference, are in a very strong position to get back into this division. Speaking of that division, the Pacific Division, Australia at 9 and 5. They are at the top. They are a half game ahead of Hong Kong, who is in second place at 8 and 5, with a superior fight difference, mind you, as well. So that is something to keep an eye out for as we close this second stage out with 3 more rounds of play. Japan is in third at 7 and 6. They are in a plus 8 fight difference. They are in a good spot as well, certainly within striking distance of the division lead as well, being just a game and a half from the top with a game in hand as well. South Korea at 7 and 8. They have games in pocket over the rest of the division, so that is something that will work against them if they try to contest this division lead towards the end of stage 2. But nonetheless, there's again plenty of season left, and they are not in the worst spot here. 7 points to their name, 7 and 8 with 57 fights won. It actually leads the division, but their 55 fights lost is second worst, only to the bottom team in the division, which is Singapore down there at 3 and 10. Singapore needs to start picking up wins if they want to stay away from the relegation zone as we close out the second stage. Minus 25 fight difference. Well, just 33 fights won is the big kicker that Singapore will need to improve on. Overall league standings. At the bottom, Mexico reclaims the relegation spot from the United Kingdom. Not a place that you want to be, but they are bottom of the league at 3-10 with a minus 25 fight difference. Only matched on fight difference by Singapore, who is also 3-10 with the exact same record of fights won, fights lost, fight difference. So those two actually tied for 19th, but Mexico spent more days at the bottom of the league so far, so they have the tie. Singapore gets the tiebreaker over them. That is a third tiebreaker based on that. Singapore again in 19th. France are 3-10. They are in 18th place, minus 13 fight difference. United Kingdom is in 17th. They are the lowest ranked playoff spot at 4-11 with a minus 12 fight difference. Finland at 4-9. They're at minus 18. A very, very bad fight difference. They are the highest ranked non-playoff team, though. Spain is in 15th place, 5-9, minus 19 fight difference. That definitely needs improvement. Ireland's at 5-8 in 14th place. Norway at 6-9 in 13th place. The Netherlands have a positive fight difference despite being in 12th, 6-8 for them. Switzerland is 11th at 6-7 with minus 5 fight difference. South Korea is in 10th at 7-8 on +2. Denmark is in 9th at 7-6 with +2 fight difference. Japan is in 8th at 7-6 +8 fight difference for them. Canada is now 9th with a +9 fight difference at 8-5. Hong Kong right above them at 8-5 with a +9 fight difference as well. Australia is in 5th. They maintain the division lead. They're the lowest ranked division leader right now at 9-5. They have a +6 fight difference. The Austrians right above them in 4th place at 8-5 with a +13 fight difference. Belgium is in 3rd at 11-2, +19 fight difference for them. Portugal's 12-3 with a +24 fight difference. They've had an impressive season so far, as have the Belgians. Just 2 losses for the Belgians, mind you. They have 2 games in hand above the Portuguese above them, and 1 on the United States above them as well, but still 2.5 games back. The U.S. unbeaten still 17 rounds into the season at 14-0 with a very impressive +33 fight difference. That concludes the Premier League. Over to Division 3 now. The Division 3 going into the Eastern Division. Vietnam versus Peru to start. Vietnam came into this match 4-9. They are on a 9-game losing streak. They started the season at 4-0, and they've managed to slide down the standings through 9 straight losses. They face Peru, who are 7-5 with a +3 fight difference, second in the division, third overall in this league. But the Vietnamese, they have broken the losing streak after a big 5-1 victory over the second best team in the division. Vietnam would start the match with 4 straight victories, 5-2, 5-1, 5-1, and 5-3 throughout games 1 through 4 respectively, before Peru finally got on the board with a 5-3 victory in Game 5, and not before Vietnam shut the door with a 5-1 victory in Game 6. That gave the Vietnamese the 5-1 victory and improves them to 5-10. The other big matchup, Malaysia versus the Philippines. Malaysia started 0-6 before starting to find form, 4-3 in their last 7. So really trying to contest coming off the bottom spot of the league structure. They would face the Philippine side, who are running away with the division here, the Eastern Division. And it was no different. Well fought by the Malaysians, but Philippines were just too strong. Malaysia started with the 5-2 victory before a crucial 9-round victory by the Philippines in Game 2. They piggybacked that into a 5-3 victory in Game 3 before a sweep in Game 4 put the Philippines up 3-1 impressively. Malaysia would answer back with a sweep of their own in Game 5, and then a 5-2 victory for the Malaysians in Game 6 before another 5-2 victory in Game 7 put the Malaysians within 1 fight of winning the series, but the Philippines would answer back in Game 8 5-2 to force the pivotal Game 9, which the Philippines then went on to win 5-3. That gave the Philippines a 5-4 victory. Philippines improved to 13-1. Absolutely dominating play here in the Eastern Division. Malaysia drops to 4-10. And that puts us into the Eastern Division standings. The Philippines 13-1. They are 6 points ahead of anybody else. They are absolutely running away with it again. 69 fights won is extremely impressive. Just 44 fights lost as well. 6 better than anybody else in the division. Plus 25 fight difference is also the only positive fight difference in the entire division, mind you. 13 points. They are 6 points ahead of Peru in second, who maintained second place but dropped to 7-6. 45 fights won, 50 fights lost at -1 fight difference, but 7 points. They stay ahead of the Chileans, who are 5 and 8 at a -9 fight difference. They have the lowest number of fights won in the entire division, and that's good enough for third in this division. And the -9 fight difference. Vietnam, the stop of the 9-game losing streak has brought them back into playoff contention. They are in 4th place, 5 and 9 on them, -11 fight difference as well. Malaysia is sitting at the bottom. They are 4 and 10. They are a game outside the playoffs. -4 fight difference. 52 fights won is second highest in the division, but 56 fights lost is also second highest in the division. And it's turned out to be kind of their undoing so far. That leads us into the Western Division. 2 more games. Israel 6 and 6 coming in, playing Egypt at 9 and 5, the division leaders in Egypt. Also an impressive team so far this season, but it would be the Israelis that would win this. Egypt would start with a sweep, a 5-2 victory, and then a 5-1 victory to run out a 3-0 lead before the Israelis fought back in Game 4 for a 9-round victory, and then a sweep of their own in Game 5. Game 6 saw a 5-1 victory by Israel to level the series at 3-3 before Israel would win Game 7 5-2 and Game 8 5-2 as well. So 3-0 to start for Egypt, but Israel would run it back 5 straight games, and that would give them the 5-3 series lead. Israel improves to 7 and 6. The Egyptians will drop to 9 and 6 off the back of that. The other matchup in this division, Poland versus South Africa. Poland at 5 and 8. South Africa at 6 and 6 coming into this. Poland 5 and 8, worst team in the division, but 7th overall of the 10 teams in the league. South Africa 3rd in the division is good enough for 5th overall, and it would be the South Africans that would take this one. 5 fights to 1. South Africa would open up the account with a 5-3 victory and a 5-0 victory to start the series 2-0. Poland would answer back 5-2 in Game 3 before South Africa extended the lead again at 5-3 in Game 4. South Africa in Game 5 would win 5-2 to pull within 1 of the series. They would only need 1 of the next few fights to close it out with a impressive 5-3 victory. That would put Poland at 5 and 9 at the end of play, and South Africa would improve to 7 and 6. Now let's go into the Western Division standings. Egypt with the loss still maintains a division lead, mind you, but they are at 9 and 6 now, just 2 points ahead of Israel, who have the 2 games in hand, mind you. Israel's just a game back with the 2 games in hand. +9 fight difference for the Israelis too. That could prove to be the difference. Their 45 fights lost is the lowest in the division, while their 54 fights won, second highest only to those Egyptians above them. South Africa is planted in 3rd place at 7 and 6. They are a game ahead of Sweden below them with a +3 fight difference. Sweden is at 6 and 7. They are in 4th place, -3 fight difference for them. Poland on the outside looking in still at 5 and 4, -13 fight difference for them. Certainly going to need improving. And that's going to lead us to the final, the league standings here for Division 3. Malaysia's at the bottom. They once again take 10th place down from Vietnam, as Vietnam won this round in round 17. So Malaysia again at the bottom at 4 and 10. -4 fight difference, though, is a really good fight difference for being 6 games below 500. Poland are in 9th at 5 and 9, -13. Vietnam in 8th, the lowest ranked playoff side. They are in -11. They are at -11, I should say. Chile is in 7th at 5 and 8, -9 for them. Sweden at 6 and 7 is in 6th. They are at -3. Peru is in 5th at 7 and 6, -1. South Africa 4th with 7 and 6 at +3. Israel is in 3rd. They are the highest ranked non-division leader at 7 and 6 with a +9 fight difference. They are hot on the tails of Egypt, who are 9 and 6. They have the division lead at 4, +4 fight difference, but they are 4.5 games outside of the league leaders in the Philippines at 13 and 1 with an impressive +24 fight difference. That's the end of the Dead or Alive League's round update at the end of round 17. Division 2 did not play. They will resume play at this next round, round 18. And that is all from us. So thank you very much for joining us. And all that's left is to thank our wonderful patrons, Maruja Rosario and Missharvey. Thank you for your continued support. That's the end of round 17 in the Dead or Alive League updates. Round 18 to begin this week. This is Benekaki Assassin saying goodbye for now.